Mic lock. Finish record. Mic lock. Button. Is on. Finish recording. Button. Double tap and then.
Hello, my feathered people. I'm on the hunt to get a phone case today because this one is seeing the end of days. So I want to talk about my projects that I'm doing. I'm actually doing the Imaginary Friends journal, which is the Imaginary Friends blog, the book. It's not going to be a book first, it's going to be an archive of writings. There's going to be an archive on a website which a friend is on. I got through, she's in a writing group, and I'm going to put a book together and we'll get it printed and published and everything. But the Imaginary Friends blog is now a project. The Facebook page is going to be a bit more censored than it has been, you know, because we got a few businesses who are tied to there, and I don't think it'd be good advertisement for them to see stuff like drugs and violence. I mean, alcohol is borderline, but anything else that we want to talk about, we've got to censor it a little bit. Whereas this site that we've got,
notifications. Group yesterday 4:45 p.m. Take newspaper to post box. One more reminders.
You know, whereas the this website that we're going on, we can talk about anything and everything. You know, but also my other project that I'm doing, the Glass Future, will also be on there. And remember the UFO documentary that we were going to make? We're turning that into a book. That's more kind of, again, that's all fictional. You know, the underground project. We will turn it into a documentary, but I'm thinking we do a book first, and then the book will fund documentary, if you know what I mean. It'll fund. There'll be an underground book. When I say underground, it won't be mainstream. And we can take a mick out of the conspiracy theorists and all the rest of it. There'll be interviews with Oscar Duke and Mike Dowling, and there'll just be loads of interviews in there. And we'll help to do a documentary and get people to play Oscar Duke and Mike Dowling. It's going to be a funny documentary, but from facts that we've got, you know. So it's going to be hilarious. But back to the Imaginary Friends thing, it's actually turning into a full-fledged project with imagery, with drawings, artwork, actual writing, the book is actually going to be called The Vaults. Tales from the Vaults, we're going to call it, because I was sat in the pub last night and there was a guy who was, I mean, when you sat with your parents, I mean, it's embarrassing, you know, you got here the meal with your parents, and technically, I mean, if you're on your own, it's different, you know. Of course, you have to ignore these things, but this guy, he's actually swearing, like, he sounded like that guy out of Dad's Army. But anyway, you're out with your folks. And I believe back in the olden days, back in the good old days, when people were respectable of other people, and the myths about swearing in a pub is actually you don't really swear in a pub, you swear in the vaults. So the reason why we're calling it Tales from the Vaults is because there is going to be, it's not going to go overboard. When I say explicit nature, it's not going to go overboard with explicit nature. There'll just be drugs in there and violence in there and stuff that you can cover without people going, oh, you should be covering that. And if people want to read it, they can. There'll be a warning, because even when we print the book, there'll be a warning to people who read the book that it will be 18 and over. You know, adult content. Adult content doesn't necessarily mean nudity and whatever, but it does mean that you can talk about drugs and alcohol. And it's me kind of getting my shit out, you know what I mean? Decompressing as well. There's also a book I'm working on called The Invisible Kid, which is going to be a YouTube series to begin with, because the imaginary friends have always been a problem in my life. And then how do you deal with the problems? And I see myself as a Trent Reznor type character, you know, quite an innocent person, but inside there is a darker character, which I love the darker character, but it's not always great all the time. And everyone's got a dark side to them, but it's great in creatively how we use the darkness to, you know, how there's so many other things that are, I don't know, what I see dark and what you see dark is totally different. I mean, I don't know, I've been listening to too much of Herbs and Altars. I've been listening to too much of her stuff, her stories, and I understand, you know, someone's darkness is another man's light or another man's reflection, shall we say. And depression is the reason why a lot of neurodivergent people are depressed, or a reason why some of people in our community are depressed is because is that communication barrier. You know, how do you break that? It's a great question, and I'd love to know how these are broken. This is a ScattyNotes video, by the way. I like to make these videos as I'm walking along, because it updates people. It's better than just an update, actually, because you can talk a little bit more. The archive website will have, you know, the stuff that's on the Facebook page, but then there'll be stuff that we can't put on the Facebook page. I mean, there is a moral line you've got to go over, obviously, but I understand there's, you know, you've got to protect the children a little bit. And we want to talk about an imaginary person called Paul Ogar, who was very well known. Oh, he's letting me go. Or she's letting me go. Thank you, person in the car. Oh, they're going that way. I always talk to people and go, they stopping there, and they've got the door wide open. It's an old lady. Afternoon.
Hello. Are you okay?
Yes, see you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. All right, have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, bless them. How can I put it? Like, this website will have the stuff that you know, the drinks with imaginary Charles, but Paul Ogar, he was very well known, and he was a gangster. Now, we want to talk about Pete Saffroyd's death because we do know about what happened. Paul Ogar was very instrumental in killing Saffroyd. He was the one that told them not to bring guns because they wanted to do it quietly. And I actually got the story from a thing that happened with Al Capone. So I copied that story. They couldn't bring guns. Fists, knives, whatever. As long as it wasn't guns. So that's what they did. He was stabbed, and some of the gang members, they had to get ambulances. It was one of those things. But Paul Ogar took the body and buried him himself. Very instrumental. But he wasn't in prison for that. He wasn't in prison for Saffroyd's murder. Someone else took the brunt of it. He went to prison over a afternoon. He went to prison over a bank raid, but obviously you can't talk about that on Facebook because, talk about it on YouTube, but you're only getting the synopsis. But again, if I was to talk about it properly, I'd probably get censored, because it's too violent. You're going into the whole. I've probably done the Paul Ogar story. I don't know if I have. He started off when he was 10. He started robbing from a sweet shop. He killed his own mother and stole from her at 12. And then at 14, he went in the army. Such an early age. No, at 16 he went in the army. But he did other things, little petty things, He started, when he was 18, he started a gang in Toxteth called the Malevolence, and they then split up because of certain things. Then he robbed from bigger companies, and then he robbed from his uncle. Paul Ogar knew he didn't want a small company. Small companies were, little post offices, he didn't want them. He wanted these big corporations where he knew that he could get the money from. So he stole from them, and there was a massive jewelry shop where he stole from there, took there, and then he became a doorman and worked the door on the clubs. But they didn't like him in the clubs because he was from Liverpool. But what he was actually doing was he was protecting the people in the clubs. If they wanted stuff, he'd get the stuff for them, and mainly weapons. He would help other people fight other people. He was that kind of person. He would help people out. You know, you wanted a big heavy, he was your man. And you wanted someone to bang on your door, he was your man. You know, he helped, like, the debt collectors. He helped, you know, he helped these people do all what they needed to do. He did all the big, whatchamacallit, big heavy works, you know, and I mean, he didn't need money. He had 2 taxi companies. He ran 2 taxi companies. He had people on his side, basically. And even when he was locked up, he even ran the prison that he was in, and he made his own prison gang, or got a prison gang going. So even when he came out, when he got out of prison, he was still operating the prison from outside and getting people, if they were going into the prison, he had them work the system, basically. So but he had a prostitute who he looked after, this prostitute, because he didn't want her just being, you know, just being this grubby girl on the street, you know. He wanted her actually, he wanted her well groomed. And she sort of, when he came out, she sort of became his actual full-time lover. And she was still living in his property, because when they found, after his death, they found her, buried, not buried, they found her, that sounds bad, doesn't it? They found all of her stuff there, because she was still living, she was still living in a dead man's property. She was even living there when he was inside. So anyway, but it's a story I've made up. It's a fictional tale, but it's not one that I can go fully in depth on Facebook. And also Bernie's death. Bernie, who worked for us, he got stabbed to death, terrible, in a crossfire, which we're going to cover as well. Stabbed. And the man that stabbed him has actually been killed. Would you believe it? In a mishap. And basically drugs and money, they're not great things. Well, money's a great thing, but what do you know, it's when you use the money. I'm going to press this button again. When you use the money for evil, that's, you know, money isn't necessarily the root of evil. The root of evil is, you know, the money is like the flower of the seed of the bud, if you will. But anyway, once we get on this site, we're also going to get some people's names, and we're getting a WhatsApp community going, so we can send you the stories via WhatsApp and you can read them that way. They will be, when I say adult, there won't be, I mean, there'll be some sexual stuff, But like I say, it's not. When I say adult, I mean guns and violence and gangsters and drugs. I can talk about why Andy Johnson really left home. We can't talk about that on Facebook because it was to do with substance abuse, so I can't talk about that on Facebook. But we can talk about it in the archive, and you can read about why Andy really left home. I think we've talked about it on the podcast actually, so people do know. But I know there's some people that reading a Facebook would disagree, and they would tell me to delete it, so can't really tell an actual story on Facebook or anywhere else. So this, we've got to say, it's explicit nature, but it's not explicit in the way you think. It's not explicit in crumbs, how can I describe it? You know, when we talk about, you know, and it's to make people aware, but it's like you know, there's also, if you go on the, when we do the archive thing, and if we get the WhatsApp set up, there'll be behind the scenes info where I get all my stories for the imaginary friends stuff. And some of it has been from video games, you know, Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 had some great storylines. Vice City had a great map. The Sims a little bit, not too much. And what was the other game? The one that had the slot machine in. Borderlands 2 had the slot machine in. But there you go. I use artificial intelligence to get research. I'll ask it things and it will give me things back. But I don't rely on it. I use the AI to give me a synopsis of what my imaginary friends are doing. But hopefully in the future, my next project would be to make the imaginary friends sort of be in the AI. I don't know. In the future, if we can. We've used the Snapchat AI as well, because that's pretty good. You got to be careful with that one though, because it's if you're not careful with it, it sends stuff at random, which is why they tell you not to, when you sending pictures, they tell you not to send the pictures to the AI, because the AI will regenerate them. But yeah, the Snapchat AI is pretty good. It uses GPT-3 actually, which is really good. And you're getting it for free, you know? But again, it's not accurate. I wouldn't rely on it heavily. So yeah, don't use GPT. Just be careful, you know. I use a role-playing app too, but again, it's all for, you know, it's all for research purposes. But I have other means of, oh crap. I pressed that button because I'm not in a dead rush. If I was in a dead rush, I would try and jump these lights here. But I'm not in a dead rush, so that means for me to jump these lights. So yeah, that's where I get my research from when I've been doing the Facebook page. and I've been reading a lot of whoops. Yeah, I've just been reading a lot of or speaking to people about stuff, you know? Things come up in conversation. There you go, you got a story. Got a story already. And there's a story coming out today on Facebook. If you, we got the Tumblr as well, which we're using. We're sort of building that up. Tumblr is, again, it's okay, but you got to be careful. Try and not be too. You've got to be a little bit sensitive on Tumblr. But like I said, this new website, we can talk about anything: drugs, guns, anything. See, I read a Facebook post this morning about people in business, you know, people with briefcases and all this stuff taking over the world, which is kind of how politicians run. And technically, being the big I am, I prefer to run, you know, I tend to live now out of a briefcase and out of an office, because you live out of a briefcase, your office can be anywhere. I mean, me and Andy were talking about setting up the new Radiant advertising website, because you need to be, I mean, with the company we've got now, you need to be anywhere. And the advertisement industry, the thing that they don't tell you is it's a company that progresses. You can't literally be the same. Now, I am, with my autism, I am very, I don't like change so much, but I love it when change revolves around you. And with the advertisement company, we started out as a marketing company. We weren't advertising originally, we were marketing. The advertising came through the marketing, and we realized that we could, because all advertising is awareness, but you spend your time creating awareness. That's, you know, where you spend a lot of creative agencies or creatives. They're stuck in one part, they're stuck in multiple parts, not one part, which, yes, it widens the choice, and advertising is, they say, is too narrow. Oh, there's a van there. He's got a tow bar on the back. But advertising isn't narrow at all. Just cross this road. Yeah, advertising isn't narrow at all. Advertising is actually fact. You've got to think, when you create an advert, right? How long does it take to create the ad? How long does it take you to... I mean, we've got an ad there that's staying in the studio for another couple of weeks. That really annoys me. I mean, we've got what we need doing. But technically, it's if we were going to spend more doing that, so we need to spend less time on what we can, we've painted it, does it need more, and then we just need to stick stuff down. Hold a second, because I've got an itch. So the ad really needs to come out the studio in 2 or 3 weeks. Then there's like 4 more jobs. Halloween, as I've said, to me, Halloween's a bad time because you've got bonfire night straight after, which people have asked us to do this year. And I'm like, oh no, because when you've got bonfire night, you've not just got one ad, you've got 5 or 10 events all coming at you. So we've said we'll only do one. We'll advertise one event, and everybody else can, because they come to us too late for that. And we've said, look, a month in advance, 2 months in advance, 2-3 months in advance, and our ads are getting quite expensive at the moment. Oops. Yeah, our ads are getting very expensive. You're looking at 40-50 quid an ad. And if it has to stay in the studio for any longer, that's 20-30 quid an ad. Because it's what you pay for, and nothing's cheap these days, so you literally, if someone's only got 400 quid on a budget, you have to think, right, okay, 400 quid on a budget, then we can't do much if you've only got like 400 quid. We're speaking to someone the other day. They've got quite a fair bit in their budget, but still, is that enough? That's But then again, how much have you got to deal with a client? How much have you got once that client comes in? Then, anyways, so my first call is to CEX. That's where my first call is to see if I can get a phone case. If they don't have none in there, I'll walk somewhere else. I don't want to be paying the earth for this one's falling to bits. And I can't hold it properly. I want one that I can hold properly. It's not a disaster if I don't get one today, but I might as well get one today, you know what I mean? And then I might as well call in at the salon. Or I might phone them on Monday. I'm in town, I don't know why, but I'll phone them on Monday. So yeah, back to advertising. The projects, if you phone me up and said, hey Stephen, I've got £2,000 in my budget, I'll be right, okay, it's going to cost you, it's still going to cost you, it'll cost £7 for that, or probably £4 for that, then it'll cost 5 or 6 quid for that. So then, and how much money are we going to see? You don't see all of it, to be honest. Hey, no worries, don't panic. I wasn't thinking there. I'm going to park up here. I'm going to finish the recording right here, but yeah. Something's really bit me there. I'll be getting the tutorial on that when I get home. Right. Bye, folks, and I'll see you in the next one.
Mic trigger, mic lock, finish recording.